And the footy world mourns the loss of a former Brownlow medalist. The AFL world is mourning the loss of legendary Swans and Bulldogs ruckman Barry Round. Barry's football career began at Footscray in 1969 when he was just 17. He eventually moved on to South Melbourne, where he won the Brownlow medal in 1981 before becoming Sydney's first captain after the club's relocation. He would go on to play 328 games before wrapping up his career at Williamstown.
Barry Round was one of those people, not only a great footballer, but just universally loved and admired by, I think, the entire football fraternity and others and beyond.
Barry passed away this morning. He was 72 years old.
AFL legend Barry Round has died at the age of 72 after going into palliative care earlier this week. Round began his football career at Footscray and was instrumental in bringing the sport to Sydney, where he was the first to captain the Swans. The Brownlow medalist and Hall of Famer played 328 games in a career spanning 17 years. AFL CEO Gil McLachlan says he'll be remembered beyond his on-field highlights as one of the most important figures in the history of the Swans.
Still to come, remembering the gentle giant of Australian football. Barry Round dies aged 72. Loved ones are paying tribute to AFL legend Barry Round following his passing from organ failure. The gentle giant played 328 senior games in his career. He made his debut at Footscray in 1969 and went on to play 135 games for the Bulldogs and another 193 matches for the Swans. He captained the Bloods from 1980 to 1984 and was named in the Swans Team of the Century in 2003. Round's greatest individual honour was tying for the 1981 Brownlow medal. He was 72.
Brownlow medalist Barry Round is being remembered as a gentle giant who left a lasting legacy in the football world. The former Sydney captain and Hall of Fame member died this morning, aged 72.
A true giant of the game, Barry Round was proof good guys can finish first.
Ferocious competitor, but really a gentle giant.
Admired and loved as much for his magnetic personality as his football skills. From Warragul in the Latrobe Valley, Round debuted for Footscray as a teenager.
A lot of press guys there and photographers, and so she's making a fuss out of me first. And then I found out it was Teddy Whitten's 300.
He soon forged his own path as one of the game's best ruckmen. A move to South Melbourne in 1976 was followed by the 1981 Brownlow medal, shared with good mate Bernie Quinlan, although the hangover was all Barry's.
I think I'll survive the day all right. I feel like I fought Muhammad Ali at the moment.
Captain during the Swans' turbulence and colourful first steps into Sydney.
We're Swans and we are Sydney.
He held the struggling club together in the early days in the Harbour City. As Gil McLachlan put, because of his leadership, the Swans fought huge obstacles to lay down a foundation that sees them today as one of the great clubs of the AFL. He will be deeply missed. Round got to see the Bloods reach footy's ultimate prize in 2005. His connection with the Swans was strong right to the very end, a member of their Team of the Century and in the Australian Football Hall of Fame. He was placed into palliative care earlier this week and passed earlier this morning.
He always had a broad smile on his face and just ever so happy all the time. He's a great bloke to be around.
Barry Round was 72. Andrew McCormack, 7 News.
Farewell to an AFL legend. Swans great Barry Round gone at the age of 72. One of football's most famous names has died, 1981 Brownlow medalist Barry Round. A member of the game's famed 300 club, Round passed away on the Gold Coast, aged 72. Braden Ingram compiled this tribute.
It was only a few months ago that Barry Round again graced the MCG. He was rubbing shoulders and swapping yarns with fellow Swans Brownlow medalists Paul Kelly and Peter Bedford. Today, Those mates are paying tribute to Barry.
Just a much-loved character, and as I say, 72 years of age, it's too young.
Barry Round passed away aged 72. He'd been in palliative care on the Gold Coast with what's believed to be heart complications. The Swans confirming his passing in a statement which in part read, "He was one of the few players who was universally loved, not just at the clubs at which he played, but across the entire AFL world." Round's giant frame was matched only by his footballing CV. His league career started at the then Footscray, but after 135 games with the Bulldogs, he headed to the Swans. It was there he would add another 193 games, taking his league tally to 328. League CEO Gillon McLachlan highlighting Round's importance in the Harbour City, stating under his leadership and because of his leadership, the Swans fought huge obstacles to lay down a foundation that sees them today as one of the great clubs of the AFL. Round reached the pinnacle of his career in 1981, sharing the Brownlow with his good mate Bernie Quinlan.
And to Barry Round, again, the 1981 Brownlow medal.
And even when Round retired in 1985, he still wasn't quite ready to hang up the boots. He became captain coach of Williamstown, leading the Seagulls to premierships in 1986 and 1990.
Yeah, I looked at Port Melbourne and Brunswick, and Port only had 14 pubs, and I think Williamstown had 16, so I thought that's the spot for me. Can't get barred from them all.
It was with the Seagulls where Round was again the toast of the football world, winning the 1987 Liston medal. Only 3 men have won the Brownlow Liston double: Sam Mitchell, Barry Round and former Magpie Des Fothergill. 9 News bringing the latter two together in 87.
Once you retire, it's something that means a lot more to you. It's something that you've got for the rest of your life, really.
Although Round spent his final years on the Gold Coast, he was still very much a regular to Melbourne, still very much part of our football DNA.
He never really forgot his roots, and he always loved the old South Melbourne Sydney Swans.
A Brownlow, a Liston and Team of the Century status with the Swans. A fair indication of the champion footballer Barry Round was. But today's tributes have left no doubt as to the champion bloke he always was. Braden Ingram, 9 News.
Brownlow medalist and the first captain of the Sydney Swans, Barry Round, has died aged 72.
Round, good mark, Big Barry.
Round played more than 300 games in the Victorian Football League between 1969 and 85. He played for Footscray, South Melbourne, and led Sydney in their first year when the Swans moved north. The 6'4" ruckman also captained Williamstown to 2 VFA premierships before being inducted into the Australian Football Hall of Fame.
How do you impart to your players the skills that you display?
Well, I think I'm in the other category there. I don't class myself as a great player. I've had some good years of footy and that, but never been a natural champion like your Bernie Quinlans and Malcolm Blights.
The Sydney Swans say the first ruck was highly competitive but very fair and was a great teammate and leader.